teaching and living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion. Shakyamuni Buddha, the fully enlightened one, to whom we bow in gratitude.
Sangha Karman procedure.
Has the community of the Order of Interbeing assembled?
Yes, the community of the Order of Interbeing has assembled.
Is there harmony in the community?
Yes, there is harmony.
Is there anyone not able to be present who has asked to be represented? And have they declared themselves to have done their best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings?
Yes, Brother Hakim for Sangha service reasons cannot be at the recitation today. He has asked Brother Dr. to represent him and he declares he has done his best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings.
Dạ thưa, có tiếp hiện thích chân phát trình vì lý do căn sai đã không đến tụng giới được, đã yêu cầu con là tiếp hiện thích chân trời Bắc Sơn được đại diện và gửi theo sự thanh tịnh.
Yes, Thai Tom is not able to be at the recitation today because of ill health. He has asked Brother Kitam to represent him and he declares he has done his best to study and practice the mindfulness trainings.
Yes, Brother Victor, for health reasons cannot be at the recitation today. He had asked Brother Victor Goodman to represent him, and he declares that he's done his best to study and practice the mindfulness training.
What is the reason for the community assembling today?
The community has assembled to practice the recitation of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing.
Noble community of the Order of Interbeing, please listen. Today, June 2nd, in the year 2020, has been declared as the day to recite the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. The community has assembled at the appointed time and is ready to hear and to recite the mindfulness trainings in an atmosphere of harmony. Thus, the recitation can proceed. Is this statement clear and complete?
Clear.
Dear Sangha, this is the moment when we enjoy reciting the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. The 14 mindfulness trainings are the very essence of the Order of Interbeing. They are the torch lighting our path, the boat carrying us, the teacher guiding us. They allow us to touch the nature of interbeing in everything that is, and to see that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. Interbeing is not a theory, it is a reality that can be directly experienced by each of us at any moment in our daily lives. The 14 mindfulness trainings help us cultivate concentration and insight, which free us from fear and the illusion of a separate self. Please listen to each mindfulness training with a serene mind. The mindfulness training serves as a clear mirror in which to look at ourselves. Say yes silently every time you see that you have made an effort to study, practice, and observe the mindfulness trainings read. The first mindfulness training, openness. Aware of the suffering created by fanaticism and intolerance, we are determined not to be idolatrous about or bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. We are committed to seeing the Buddhist teachings as guiding means that help us develop our understanding and compassion. They are not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. We understand that fanaticism, in its many forms, is the result of perceiving things in a dualistic and discriminative manner. We will train ourselves to look at everything with openness and the insight of interbeing, in order to transform dogmatism and violence in ourselves and in the world. This is the first of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The second mindfulness training, non-attachment to views. Aware of the suffering created by attachment to views and wrong perceptions, we are determined to avoid being narrow-minded and bound to present views. We are committed to learning and practicing non-attachment to views and being open to others' experiences and insights in order to benefit from the collective wisdom. Insight is revealed through the practice of compassionate listening, deep looking, and letting go of notions, rather than through accumulation of intellectual knowledge. We are aware that the knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. Truth is found in life, and we'll observe life within and around us in every moment, ready to learn throughout our lives. This is the second of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The third mindfulness training, freedom of thought. Aware of the suffering brought about when we impose our views on others, we are determined not to force others, even our children, by any means whatsoever, such as authority, threat, money, propaganda, or indoctrinations, to adopt our views. We are committed to respecting the right of others to be different, to choose what to believe and how to decide. We will, however, learn to help others let go of and transform narrowness through loving speech and compassionate dialogue. This is the third of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The fourth mindfulness training, taking care of suffering. Aware that looking deeply at the nature of suffering can help us develop understanding and compassion, we are determined to come home to ourselves, to recognize, accept, embrace, and listen to our suffering with the energy of mindfulness. We'll do our best not to run away from our suffering or cover it up through consumption, but practice conscious breathing and walking to look deeply into the roots of suffering. We know that we can realize the path leading to the transformation of suffering only when we understand deeply the roots of suffering. Once we have understood our own suffering, we'll be able to understand the suffering of others. We are committed to finding ways, including personal contact and the use of telephone, electronics, audiovisual, and other means, to be with those who suffer, so we can help them transform their suffering into compassion, peace, and joy. This is the fourth of the 14 mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The fifth mindfulness training, compassionate, healthy living. Aware that true happiness is rooted in peace, solidity, freedom, and compassion. We are determined not to accumulate wealth while millions are hungry and dying, nor to take it as the aim of our life, fame, power, wealth, or sensual pleasure, which can bring much suffering and despair. We will practice looking deeply into how we nourish our body and mind with the 4 kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impression, volition, and consciousness. We are committed not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which bring toxins into our own and the collective body and consciousness, such as certain websites, electronic games, music, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. We will consume in a way that preserves compassion, peace, joy, and good health in our bodies and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of our family, our society, and the earth. This is the 5th of the 14 Mindfulness Training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 6th mindfulness training, taking care of anger. Aware that anger blocks communication and creates suffering, we are committed to taking care of the energy of anger when it arises, recognizing and transforming the seeds of anger that lie deep in our consciousness. When anger manifests, we are determined not to do or say anything, but to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking to acknowledge, embrace, and look deeply into our anger. We know that the roots of anger are not outside of ourselves, but can be found in our wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in ourselves and others. By contemplating impermanence, we'll be able to look with the eyes of compassion at ourselves and those we think are the cause of our anger, and to recognize the preciousness of our relationships. We'll practice right diligence in order to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, gradually transforming our anger, violence, and fear, and helping others do the same. This is the 6th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 7th mindfulness training, dwelling happily in the present moment. Aware that life is available only in the present moment, we are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or to be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or craving, anger, or jealousy in the present. We will practice mindful breathing to be aware of what is happening in the here and the now. We are determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, and healing elements that are inside and around us in all situations. In this way, we will be able to cultivate seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. We are aware that true happiness depends primarily on our mental attitude and not on external conditions. and that we can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that we already have more than enough conditions to be happy. This is the seventh of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The eighth mindfulness training, true community and communication. Aware that the lack of communication always brings separation and suffering, we are committed to training ourselves in the practice of compassionate listening and loving speech. Knowing that true community is rooted in inclusiveness and in a concrete practice of the harmony of views, thinking, and speech, we'll practice to share our understanding and experiences with members in our community in order to arrive to a collective insight. We are determined to learn to listen deeply without judging or reacting, and refrain from uttering words that can create discord or cause the community to break. Whenever difficulties arise, we'll remain in our Sangha and practice looking deeply into ourselves and others to recognize all the causes and conditions, including our own habit energies that have brought about the difficulties. We'll take responsibility for the ways we may have contributed to the conflict and keep communication open. We'll not behave as a victim, but be active in finding ways to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. This is the 8th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 9th mindfulness training, truthful and loving speech. Aware that words can create happiness or suffering, we are committed to learning to speak truthfully, lovingly, and constructively. We will use only words that inspire joy, confidence, and hope, as well as promote reconciliations and peace in ourselves and among others people. We will speak and listen in a way that can help ourselves and others to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. We are determined not to say untruthful things for the sake of personal interest or to impress people, nor to utter words that might cause divisions or hatred. We will protect the happiness and the harmony of our Sangha by refraining from speaking about the faults of other persons in their absence, and always ask ourselves whether our perceptions are correct. We will speak only with the intention to understand and help transform the situation. We will not spread rumors, nor criticize or condemn things of which we are not sure. We will do our best to speak about situations of injustice, even when doing so may make difficulties for us or threaten our safety. This is the 9th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 10th mindfulness training, protecting and nourishing the Sangha. Aware that the essence and aim of a Sangha is the practice of understanding and compassion, We are determined not to use the Buddhist community for personal power or profit, or transform our community into a political instrument. As members of a spiritual community, we should nonetheless take a clear stand against oppression and injustice. We should strive to change the situation without taking sides in a conflict. We are committed to learning to look with the eyes of interbeing and to see ourselves and others as cells of a Sangha body. As a true cell in the Sangha body, generating mindfulness, concentration, and insight to nourish ourselves and the whole community, each of us is at the same time a cell in the Buddha body. We'll actively build brotherhood and sisterhood, flow as a river, and practice to develop the three real powers: understanding, love, and cutting through afflictions to realize collective awakening. This is the 10th of the 14 mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 11th mindfulness training, right livelihood. Aware that great violence and injustice have been done to our environment and society, we are committed not to live with a vocation that is harmful to humans and nature. We will do our best to select a livelihood that contributes to the well-being of all species on earth and helps to realize our ideal of understanding and compassion. Aware of economic, political, and social realities around the world, as well as our interrelationship with the ecosystem, we are determined to behave responsibly as consumers and as citizens. We will not invest in or purchase from companies that contribute to the depletion of natural resources, harm the earth, and deprive others of their chance to live. This is the 11th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 12th mindfulness training, reverence for life. Aware that much suffering is caused by war and conflict, we are determined to cultivate nonviolence, compassion, and the insight of interbeing in our daily lives and promote peace education, mindful mediation, and reconciliation within families, communities, ethnic and religious groups, nations, and in the world. We are committed not to kill and not to let others kill. We will not support any act of killing in the world, in our thinking, and in our way of life. We will diligently practice deep looking with our Sangha to discover better ways to protect life, prevent war, and build peace. This is the 12th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 13 mindfulness training, generosity. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, we are committed to cultivating generosity in our way of thinking, speaking, and acting. We will practice loving kindness in working for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals, and share our time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. We are determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belongs to others. We will respect the properties of others, but will try to prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other beings. This is the 13th of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
The 14th Mindfulness Training, True Love, for lay members. Aware the sexual desire is not love, and the sexual relations motivated by craving cannot dissipate the feeling of loneliness, but will create more suffering, frustration, and isolation. We are determined not to engage in sexual relations without mutual understanding, love, and a deep long-term commitment made known to our family and friends. Seeing the body and mind are in unison, we are committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energy and cultivate loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness for our own happiness and the happiness of others. We must be aware of future suffering that may be caused by sexual relations. We know that to preserve the happiness of ourselves and others, we must respect the rights and commitments of ourselves and others. We'll do everything in our power to protect children from sexual abuse and to protect couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. We'll treat our bodies with compassion and respect. We are determined to look deeply into the four nutriments to learn ways to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our Bodhisattva ideal. We'll be fully aware of the responsibility of bringing new lives into the world and will meditate regularly upon the future environment. For monastic members, aware that the deep aspiration of a monk can only be realized when he wholly leaves behind the bonds of sensual love, we are committed to practicing chastity and to helping others protect themselves. We are aware that loneliness and suffering cannot be alleviated through a sexual relationship, but through practicing loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness. We know that a sexual relationship will destroy our monastic life, prevent us from realizing our ideal of serving living beings, and harm others. We'll learn appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energies. We are determined not to suppress or mistreat our body, or to look upon our body only as an instrument, but we'll learn to handle our body with compassion and respect. We'll look deeply into the four nutriments in order to preserve or channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of a Bodhisattva ideal. This is the 14th of the 14 mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past 2 weeks?
Brothers and sisters, we have recited the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing as the community has wished. We thank all of our sisters and brothers for helping us to do it serenely.
Reciting the trainings, practicing the